See if you can turn the tide and get us a win on the board, eh? Right. You got your orders. Get out there and bring those heretics to their knees.
You staring at me! Don't! Don't look at me funny. Don't like it.
In the past, when doing a deep dive, I typically started here. Now, I start here, at least for Ogren. There is a plethora of valuable information within the Ogrynomicon. If you play Ogren and haven't given it a look, I highly suggest you do so. It will save you a lot of valuable time. The Ogrynomicon is authored by Fireant, Hank, and Hadzi, and it is kept up to date regularly as the game evolves. Hank has a YouTube channel that is Ogren-centric. More Ogren, more better. If you're like me and just can't get enough of Ogren, check these out. I'll leave a link to both the Ogrynomicon and Hank's YouTube channel in the description. Fireant, Hank, and Hadzi are all active on the official DARKTIDE Discord in the Ogren class section, and I see them answer questions regularly. I'll leave a link to it in the description as well. Attacks. The Orox Mark II Battle Maul and Mark III Slab Shield has 7 attacks. Light 1 is a horizontal sweep from right to left that can cleave and damage 7 groaners. Light 2 is identical to Light 1 but comes from left to right. Light 3 is a 45-degree strike from right to left that can cleave and damage 6 groaners. Light 4 is identical to Light 3 but comes from left to right. Heavy 1 is a horizontally oriented forward strike that can cleave and damage 11 groaners to the weak spot, killing 1. Heavy 2 is a horizontal sweep from right to left that can cleave and damage 17 groaners. The push attack is a downward strike that can cleave and damage 3 groaners, killing 1. The light-heavy combos for this setup are Light 1 to Heavy 2 repeating, or Heavy 1 to Lights 3 and 4 repeating. During the intro of this video, I'm seen pushing enemies multiple times. Do you need to push very often with this weapon? Not really much at all if you know how to dodge dance. But why do it? Efficiency. First of all, pushing enemies taunts them. Second, I want everything as clumped together as possible. I can outright kill multiple regular enemies with Heavy 1, bleeding some in the process, and bleed up to 17 groaners with Heavy 2. Why attack a single heretic when I can just push it and let it pack itself back in with the other 50 headed my way? Hitting as many enemies as possible with your heavy attacks takes a little bit of practice utilizing screen swiping. Modifiers. The modifiers for this weapon, in order of importance, are damage, crowd control, penetration, defenses, and cleave damage. Wait a minute, Cash. Hold up. I can cleave a lot of targets with heavy attacks. Shouldn't the cleave damage modifier be more highly ranked? Well, you don't do that much damage to targets beyond the first. Crowd control dictates your cleave damage distribution, and most of your damage to cleave targets comes from the bleed effect from batter, which you should absolutely run with this weapon. Defenses is fairly important, as this is where you get your sprint cost, push cost, and dodge distance from. Unfortunately, your dodge distance is still going to be trash, and your sprint cost is abysmal at best. You're going to want to bring a ranged weapon for moving around the map. That being said, defenses is important, but less so than the remaining 3 modifiers. This is the first time I've placed crowd control over penetration. This is for 3 reasons. 1, the crowd control modifier controls attack speed. You want as much of this as possible. Number 2, crowd control also dictates the amount of stagger you are providing with your strikes, as well as the staggered duration. The length of Stagger widens the time frame for taking advantage of the Skullcrusher damage bonus, as well as some pretty interesting Stagger breakpoints we'll discuss later in the video. Number 3, compared to other Ogren weapons like the clubs, penetration does little for you when it comes to Carapace. Your bleed is going to be doing quite a bit of the heavy lifting when it comes to Maniac, Flak, and Carapace damage. Damage is, well, damage. You want as much of it as you can get, and there are 2 blessings that can help with that. Blessings. Brutal Momentum, plus 7.5 to 15% weak spot damage. Weak spot kills also ignore enemy hit mass. The change to Brutal Momentum that came in patch 13 made it better and worse at the same time. I find it to be a fairly balanced change. If you weren't aware, Brutal Momentum used to provide a buff to ignore enemy hit mass for up to 4.5 seconds after a weak spot kill. It was very overtuned on some weapons, like the Combat Axe. Currently, it still provides this benefit, but only on the strike where an enemy was killed with the weak spot strike. So, a little worse. However, the addition of weak spot damage makes it more geared toward achieving breakpoints and gaining the benefit of higher damage distribution. On the shield, Heavy 1 can go from killing 1 Scab Bruiser in 1 hit to killing 4. I run this on my shield, I hit headshots frequently, and it significantly speeds up horde clearing. Confident Strike. Plus 5 to 8% toughness on chained hit. Like every other weapon I've tested this on, it works and is a very solid blessing. You can miss your target completely, and as long as you continue chaining attacks, Confident Strike will trigger on your next hit. If you're looking to have maximum toughness generation on your build, then this blessing is it. I don't run this one though. Skullcrusher. Target receives 1 to 4 stacks of plus 10% damage if already staggered. At rank 4 Skullcrusher, I innately do 136 damage to a Dreg Rager with a push attack without applying Skullcrusher. Upon applying Skullcrusher, I do 190, a 39.7% increase. The 0.3% discrepancy is likely due to fractional damage that is rounded. The cap for Skullcrusher attacks is at least 8. I can achieve 245 damage using multiple pushes against the Rager. This is an 80.15% increase. The 0.15% discrepancy, again, is likely due to rounded fractions. The damage appears to be team-wide. Toward the beginning of my Godgrin video, you will see 2 teammates of mine absolutely annihilate a Beast of Nurgle as I'm just slapping its weak spot, applying stacks of Skullcrusher and staggering it. From what I see in this recording, the enemy needs to be in a staggered state for the extra damage to be calculated in. You can see that every other hit of mine has the stagger debuff being applied. On the strikes where it is absent, I am only seeing the base value of 136. I think I have finally come to understand this blessing. Brutal Momentum only provides extra damage to weak spot hits. Skullcrusher is the only blessing available on the shield that provides extra damage overall. If, in fact, the damage is team-wide, it's a massive force multiplier for your squad, as long as they know to take advantage of it and you are capable of reliably staggering your enemies. This blessing is a must-pick for me. Thunderstrike. Target receives 1 to 4 stacks of plus 10% impact if already staggered. Unlike Skullcrusher, there is no way for me to quantify the stack cap. I had to revert to observation for anecdotal evidence regarding the amount of stagger provided by this blessing. So let's talk about that. Stagger. Before the Trader's Curse Part 2, you could do this with a basic shield. Being able to permanently stagger crushers was reassuring when heading into the depths of Tertium. You could, without adding any impact, knock over a crusher with 4 heavy attacks as long as you started with heavy 2. After the patch? Well, you can't permanently stagger a crusher with the shield. You just can't do it. They are going to get an attack off no matter what you do. You can still knock them over with the 4 attack combo that leads with heavy 2. Slam fits directly between 1 strike of Thunderstrike 2 and 1 strike of Thunderstrike 3. With either Thunderstrike 2 or Slam, you can knock over a Crusher in 3 heavy attacks if you lead with Heavy 1. You have to throw the fastest possible combination of this. Adding impact increases stagger duration and or severity. Throwing perfectly timed Heavy 1, 2, and 1 with Thunderstrike 2 will knock over a Crusher. Hit it in the body or head, it doesn't matter. Running Slam in lieu of Thunderstrike 2 will open the window of stagger for your final Heavy 1 just enough to make it much more consistent while reducing the necessity for perfect timing. While the perfect timing will get it done, the window is so tight that you may very well throw a light attack. If you do this, the Crusher will come out of its stagger, the Crusher will throw an attack, and you need to start your combo over. Thunderstrike 3 fares a bit better than Rank 2, and Rank 4 is arguably the best overall for reducing the requirement for perfect timing for heavies. If knocking over a Crusher in 3 strikes is important to you, Thunderstrikes 2 through 4 will get it done without taking Slam. On a weapon that doesn't have Thunderstrike on it, Slam will let you land that 3-strike combo for a knockdown. You can almost be lazy about it, as Slam is very strong in the impact department. If you want to knock over a Crusher in 2 strikes, you'll need to also pick up Batter. Batter, oddly, adds stagger. This is probably because each tick is acting like a strike. Seems pretty cool, but it's actually not that great. You see, Crushers, after being knocked down, have roughly 1 second of stagger immunity. They're going to get an attack off. If you're in melee range after knocking one over, you're going to need a dodge very soon. In my opinion, the best combo for dealing with a Crusher is the 4-hit knockdown. This will get you to maximum bleed stacks if you're running Batter, and you can get 2 or 3 more heavy attacks in while it's standing back up. It won't be dead though, so it's going to strike before you're able to begin the knockdown combo again and kill it. I've come up with this. After you've knocked it over, throw 2 heavy attacks, attempting to hit the weak spot, then dodge backward twice. During the dodge, block cancel, as the shield likes to hold onto your heavy attack chain for a very long time. When the Crusher begins to walk toward you, charge Heavy 1 until it releases on its own. You will hit the Crusher and stagger it. It should bleed out at this point, but may require another hit. This isn't a perfect world. You can't always set up Heavy 2 to lead with. Things get wild out there. So I'd suggest picking up Slam if you don't have Thunderstrike so you can knock over a Crusher in 3 hits if you happen to start with Heavy 1. It's not as ideal as the 4-hit combo, but it's better than the Crusher being able to immediately attack you or someone else after only a few attacks. Let's get real though. It's been a very long time since I've seen this. I usually see this. In this case, you may want to be able to knock over a Crusher in 2 heavy attacks. That's going to have to be your call. I run Skull Crusher and Brutal Momentum, so I can't knock one over in 2 strikes. But with the Skull Crusher debuff and my moments of stagger, the team typically wipes the floor with these guys. You should know that the only way to knock over a Reaper with the shield is with Thunderstrike, Slam, and Batter. I haven't been able to get one to sit down without this combination. If you're like me and want a 1-strike, on-demand, knockdown, bring a kickback. I found no discernible benefit to throwing Crunch. If you throw 2 crunches in a row, or 2 fully charged heavies in a row, or if you lead with a fully charged heavy one, it really makes no difference. I see no reason to run Crunch with a shield at all. If you have found a reason for running Crunch, please share it in the comments. Attacking. Let's begin with light attacks. I mostly ignore these. I either throw them by accident when attempting to charge heavies in quick succession, or throw 3 or 4 of them between pushes to get out of a mess of a horde. Sometimes you get caught off guard and are trapped. Pushing and light attacks are a pretty decent way of getting out of a jam while reducing your risk for taking damage. If you can't move around, you're going to take some hits throwing heavies. Heavy attacks are the bread and butter of the shield. Heavy 1 is a headshot king. Heavy 2 is ignored by some folks by block canceling to get back to Heavy 1. This is an effective strategy, but only if you need the Heavy 1. I typically use Heavy 2 after every Heavy 1. During hordes, the Heavy 2 protects me, bleeds up to 17 targets, and pushes enemies back so I can snipe more targets' noggins with my Heavy 1 while taking little to no damage. I tend to block cancel into Heavy 1 when there are a few stragglers that need to be cleaned up. Besides using Heavy 1 for cleaning up stray enemies, the push attack is great for doing this as well. The push will apply Skull Crusher, and the downward strike does a decent amount of weak spot damage. When fighting lesser melee units, I spam Heavy 1 and 2. Dreg and Scab Ragers can be staggered forever with Heavy 1 and 2. Mauler's carapace-plated heads make it difficult to cleave when you have a pack of them, or they're mixed into a horde. Aim for their feet, as the weak spot hitbox is quite large. Not only will the damage you do increase, but so will your cleave. Bulwarks can be killed in one go if you have a kickback. Crushers, well, we already talked about them in the previous section. Reapers and Dreg and Scab Gunners should be shot, but you can walk right up to them with your shield raised to engage them in melee. Ensure that you have enough stamina to make it to them and hit them with a push attack. I'd suggest testing this out in the Psychanium at different stamina levels to see how far you can go under fire. Dreg and Scab Stalkers, Scab Shooters, and Dreg and Scab Shotgunners will cease using their ranged attacks and engage you in melee if you're running Attention Seeker and they shoot you with your shield up. If you see some that are shooting at you, put up your shield and don't dodge. Wait for their heads to turn red, then re-engage the enemies in front of you. Blocking. There is a mechanic from ranged attacks that you may not be aware of. When you're low on stamina and you are shot by a ranged weapon, you will regain anywhere between 45 and 65% of your stamina almost immediately. I don't know if this has to do with the number of rounds you were hit by, your total stamina pool, or what. If you have any insight into this, please share it in the comments. If running Attention Seeker, which you absolutely should along with payback time as it triggers on a block, the enemy is taunted and will continue to attack you. You asked for it, you got it. You should be aware that this is a time debuff on the enemy and does not continually refresh as they attack. It will wear off. Take advantage of it while you have it. The folks I run with know that if the head is red, make it dead. Blocking is 360 degrees of invulnerability to most attacks, but blocking from the front versus blocking from the side or rear has very different effects on your stamina pool. Being attacked from the side took slightly longer to break my stamina, but this could be due to the Rager hitting my shield occasionally or the attack chains used. The flurry attacks eat through stamina faster than the slower heavy attacks, or they could actually perform differently, I'm uncertain. The stamina depletion when blocking from the front is amazing. Against this one Dreg Rager, it took 1 minute and 22 seconds to deplete my stamina. Thank the Emperor for the chat block mod. The special action is a block that is completely impenetrable and does not deplete your stamina. You can be attacked from any angle and take no damage or stamina loss. You also won't recover stamina with this engaged, and you cannot move. Every single attack from the 4 monstrosities is nullified. There are a couple of exceptions. You will gain corruption from a demon host, the Chaos Spawn can still grab you, and the Beast of Nurgle can still swallow you whole. What is interesting is that you don't have to plant it to benefit from it. As long as you time the attacks, you can carry on as usual. The Slab Shield will not protect you from fire, grab attacks, pounces, being netted, Poxburster explosions, or the debuff from a Beast of Nurgle's ranged attack. Movement and mindset. I like to bring a ranged weapon that allows me to move around the map faster while spending less stamina to sprint. Sprinting with a weapon that gives you the most sprint speed and sprint efficiency is desirable. At higher levels of play, people move fast. You'll need to do your best to keep up. As your exposure to fast team play increases, you'll become accustomed to when you need to stop sprinting and regain your stamina for the onslaught that is to ensue. With the exception of doming heretics with your heavy 1 when attacking, the shield knocks everything around and bleeds it while applying an extra damage debuff to the target if you're running Skullcrusher. That's the job. Your teammates, who are being backed into a corner by a rager group, will be elated when you casually walk over there and dominate them into an early grave. Speaking of walking, I find myself not using sprint as often when we're engaged in combat. I don't want to expend my stamina. Just something I've noticed about my playstyle with this weapon. Builds. There are 2 builds I run with this weapon. One uses Indomitable, and the other uses Loyal Protector. I'll leave links to them in the description. I have used this some on a Gunlugger build. Some folks swear by it, but I just don't enjoy it without the bleed from heavy attacks. Additionally, you're pretty much relegated to going down the heavy hitter tree to get any meaningful breakpoints out of the thing. For curios, I run 2 health and 1 stamina with toughness regeneration speed, stamina regeneration, block efficiency, gunner resistance, and any extra health and toughness I can get my hands on. Unarmored damage for perks and Skullcrusher for blessings are must picks for me. I have +2 stamina on my shield for the other perk, and I like it. Flak damage would be good here too. I personally like Brutal Momentum for achieving that breakpoint for killing multiple Scab Bruisers with a single heavy 1. Achieving a full 4 bodies on the floor with 1 strike has become a little mini game for me. I don't take Thunderstrike on my Slab because of the changes to Crusher's Stagger immunity. Everything else besides Bulwarks, you can stagger forever. Reiterating, the only way to put a Reaper on the ground with a shield is to take Thunderstrike. If that's important to you, then get it. A kickback at close enough range will do it too. I take the kickback, so I don't worry about Bulwarks and Reapers much. I have run this with the Ackley Stubber and Rumbler. They're both great. I feel the kickback fits much better into my playstyle with the shield, so that's how I roll. In the end, the shield is an amazing weapon, and once you get the rhythm of it, it is really fun to use. You may have a hard time going back to other weapons after you see how easy it is to taunt shooters into melee from quite far away while also not having to give up your charge. What do you think of the Slab Shield's utility? Are you an OG Slab user from yesteryear whose good name was soiled across Reddit by shield haters? What do you think about the changes to Crusher's Stagger window? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to explore the shield with me. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. And if you enjoy content like this, please subscribe. Either or both of these would help me out a lot. And with that, I'm out.
Me, I could do with some rations.